Censorship has unfortunately become a norm in the video game industry, and while we've all been eagerly awaiting Lollipop Chainsaw RePop's launch, and every screenshot we've seen so far looks good, and all of the information we've heard sounds promising, unfortunately another game to recently launch, Stellar Blade, was censored, and we found out only 2 days before release, so a lot of people are extremely worried about this game's upcoming launch. Before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, follow me on social media, and consider supporting through Patreon or through YouTube memberships. Now, over the past couple of years, there's been a lot of development updates with Lollipop Chainsaw RePop because it's been delayed several times. Initially, we heard it was a full-blown remake, and then we heard it was more of a remaster. And while there are some things that, of course, people are very excited for with this game because the original was fantastic, we've all been pretty worried about censorship because, of course, the state of the video game industry is not the most positive. Gamergate 2 is of course well underway, and this is a game that a lot of people have been worried could be toned down, whether it's outfits or it's things like panty shots or even lyrics and songs. You name it, people have been extremely worried. And while all of these screenshots we've seen and a lot of the interviews we've heard have sounded pretty positive, and we've gotten a lot of very big promises, another game that recently released, Stellar Blade, was censored, and we found out only days before release. And unfortunately, Shift Up also had promised us then that it wasn't going to be censored, and we found out that that was a lie. And just a few days ago, Yoshimi Yasuda, who of course is the director on this game, had made a Twitter/X post saying the official launch of Lollipop Chainsaw RePop is almost here. Get ready for the return of the legendary zombie hunter Juliet. And we did hear a little bit of clarification that preparations are well underway for its official reveal, and the actual release date is still set for the summer. And keep in mind, this is after a major delay, so a lot of people are still a little bit nervous as to why it had to be delayed, if it's not, you know, some big full-blown remake. But at the same time, there's still a lot of positivity surrounding this game, but a lot of questions now. A lot of people wondering, is this going to face the same fate as something like Stellar Blade? Because, as I mentioned, we were previously promised that it would feature the original scenario. As this Bounding Into Comics article says, Lollipop Chainsaw RePop director clarifies game will feature the original scenario and script without any changes, and the dev team fighting to the best of our ability against censorship, which it did initially have people a little bit worried, also still excited, because to the best of their ability could mean, oh yeah, it will be censored, even though we didn't particularly want to have to do that. And of course, while we're hearing a lot of positive things about this, the same could be said about Stellar Blade. Only a few days before release, they had posted this. Stellar Blade offers the same uncensored version in all countries worldwide, which people were praising. And of course, people had been defending Shift Up and Stellar Blade for months and months before release, saying there was no way they weren't gonna buy this, and they were so excited and so hopeful. And then we found out that that wasn't particularly the whole truth. We saw, of course, Sony force censorship upon this game regarding the graffiti controversy because journalists complained about the signage on the side of a wall. And then, of course, we found out that there were a few costumes where they did add a little bit of like black lace to cover up cleavage more. They lowered bikini lines, things like that. And while, of course, some people are saying it is just small censorship on a few costumes, a little bit of censorship is still too much censorship. And it's such a shame because almost all of the news from normal people surrounding Stellar Blade had been so extremely positive leading up to release. And it's a lot of the news is still positive I mean, as you can see, Stellar Blade is the highest rated game of 2024 at this point by user score of 9.3, and that's even higher than games like Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us 1, Grand Theft Auto, Bloodborne. I mean, it is a very, very solid contender at this point for things like Game of the Year awards. But wrapping back around to Lollipop Chainsaw, you know, when it comes to developers and directors on games promising us things, it's always good to lower your expectations no matter how excited you are for a product, because they could still disappoint us, and at the end of the day, they are still a company. And while one person may promise, oh, it's going to be uncensored and it's exactly the way we wanted, the higher ups at the company may still wiggle their finger and go, that's not actually happening, and then you've taken their promise and you're running with it. So when it comes to Lollipop Chainsaw, there are quite a few people who are definitely feeling a little bit nervous about this game's full release, which should be in just a few months. As you can see, someone like Packer Girl, who of course does write for Bounding Into Comics, tweeted, Yasuda, can you guarantee that the global release of Lollipop Chainsaw RePOP will be uncensored? And a lot of people were wondering if he was going to answer, and of course he didn't. I doubt that he's really looking at his social media a lot. It's pretty scarce if you actually take the time to scroll down it, but a lot of people were asking this question and of course liking this tweet because it is what I and many other people do want to know. Another said, I hope you can actually keep it uncensored, not like Stellar Blade. I gotta be honest, I don't have much faith that this isn't going to be censored to hell and back. I want to be excited, but given games can be markets on great designs and then day one patch to be covered up, I'm too jaded to really be excited for this. Please be uncensored. Please be uncensored. I would like to be happy, but I'm afraid that it's going to be a little bit censored. Please don't censor it. Don't be like Shift Up, which of course, again, I hope that this ends up being the game of our dreams and that it truly is uncensored and that they do leave all of Juliet's costumes and all of her glory and they don't change the script and they don't change around a lot of the dialogue. And at this point, we have not seen anything that has gotten me worried. There's no pieces of content that we've seen like screenshots where the red flags are definitely waving, but it is always good to be guarded and be a little bit defensive when it comes to upcoming game releases, because we as consumers have been screwed over way too many times, and I am still very excited for this. When it finally releases, I will be streaming a full playthrough because I love the original Lollipop Chainsaw, and I just hope that Juliet truly will be in all of her glory, that we won't have to deal with some day one patch censorship, that we won't have to deal with any drastic changes. Obviously, we're still a little bit of ways away from its full release, and until we, of course, continue to see new marketing material, only time will tell, but for now, that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.